Have you ever noticed how the words you say about yourself stick, even when you don't realize it? Today, I'll show you how science proves that the language you use with yourself can literally change your brain, your mindset, and your life. And I'll give you a practical exercise to start shifting your words today.
Welcome to the Live Right Now podcast with me, Alan Haw. This is where mindfulness meets everyday life. Thanks for joining me for this reflection on living with intention. Let's talk about how we can live right now.
Hello, beautiful souls. It's Alan, and welcome to Live Right Now. Every few years, like many of us, I get excited to follow the Olympics. We get to watch the human story play out on the international stage. It's the pinnacle of athletic achievement and struggle, the thrill of victory, the agony of defeat. In elite sport, the margins between first and last place are microscopic. These athletes are separated by tenths of a point, hundredths of a second, a fraction of an inch. Many athletes will tell you that performance at this level is as much or more mental as it is physical. We saw this play out this last weekend in the men's figure skating competition at the 2026 Winter Olympics. American sensation Ilya Malinin was positioned as the overwhelming favorite. He entered the individual event leading after the short program with a world-leading competitive record behind him. But in a stunning turn of events, he fell multiple times in his free skate. He struggled with jumps he'd landed repeatedly in practice. And ultimately, finished 8th, far off the podium and without any medal in the individual event, even though a mistake-free skate would have almost certainly brought gold. Well, when it was over, Malinin told reporters that the nerves really kicked in when he took his starting pose in the middle of the rink. When everyone sat on the edge of their seat, waiting for him to produce magic, his mind was somewhere entirely different. He told reporters, all the traumatic moments of my life really just started flooding my head. There were just so many negative thoughts that just flooded into there. I just didn't handle it. It was a tangible reminder that even exceptional skill and preparation don't immunize someone from the pressures of performance. But we know it can be done. We've seen what it looks like to reset internally and return stronger. Remember gymnast Simone Biles, who withdrew from segments of competition at the Tokyo Olympics due to dangerous spatial awareness issues known as the twisties, a situation that could have ended her career. At the 2024 Paris Olympic Games, she came back to elite competition. She won multiple gold medals, proving her dominance and making what many called a historic comeback in the sport. These two examples, one of a fall from expected victory and one of a triumphant return, illustrate a deeper truth. Your internal narrative plays a significant role in how performance unfolds under pressure. This isn't mystical, it's rooted in cognitive psychology and neuroscience. The language you consistently use when talking to yourself influences how your brain functions, how you respond to stress, and how you perform under pressure. You've probably heard phrases like mind over matter or believe in yourself, but there's real science behind why internal dialogue matters. One of the foundational principles in neuroscience comes from neuropsychologist Donald Hebb, who described how neural pathways strengthen through repetition, or in his words, neurons that fire together, wire together. Every thought you think activates a network of neurons. The more often a thought is repeated, the stronger that neural pathway becomes. And over time, the brain begins to default to those new pathways, especially when under stress. So when you habitually think, I always choke under pressure, your brain becomes more likely to default to that pattern in moments of stress. Meanwhile, if you consistently reframe your language to something like, I can handle pressure by focusing on the process, You're wiring a different neural network, one that supports focus, resilience, and constructive action. I experienced this myself when I ran the Disney Marathon. Now, I'm no elite athlete, but I went in as prepared as I could be. When I got to the dreaded 20-mile mark, I, like many of the runners around me, hit the wall. I found myself repeating to myself with every step for the next 6.2 miles, yes, I can. Yes, I can. And in the end, yes, I did. The principle lies at the intersection of cognitive science and performance psychology. To appreciate this connection, let's look at how negative self talk interacts with stress physiology. When you face a high stakes situation, a big presentation, a job interview, or an Olympic performance, your body activates the sympathetic nervous system. Heart rate rises, attention narrows, and your brain shifts into survival mode. If your internal language at that moment is threat focused, I can't mess this up, or everyone's watching me, your brain interprets that as danger. This amplifies the stress response and reduces cognitive flexibility. Research by psychologist Aaliyah Crum shows that how we interpret stress changes our physiological responses. People who view stress as enhancing demonstrate improved cardiovascular function and performance compared with those who see stress as harmful. Now, this isn't about pretending stress isn't real. It's about the interpretation of stress. Now, let's connect this to our Olympic examples. In Malinen's case, the overwhelming expectations, both internal and external, may have contributed to an internal narrative so tied to flawless execution that when the first mistake occurred, it set off a cascade of tension, self-criticism, and defensive thinking. The result wasn't just a technical snowball of errors, it was a mental spiral that affected timing, decision-making, and competitive rhythm. And in the end, he didn't just miss the gold. He missed any medal at all, despite entering as the favorite with a 5-point lead. Now, contrast that with Simone Biles' experience. After stepping back from the Tokyo Games due to the twisties, Biles did not define herself by that moment of struggle. Instead, she acknowledged her experience, stepped away to protect her performance and safety, and later returned to competition with clarity and resilience. Her results were historic. She earned 3 gold medals and reasserted her dominance on the world stage. What changed wasn't her talent, it was narrative. She didn't diminish reality. She didn't define herself by the Tokyo withdrawal. She didn't attach identity to a single disrupted experience. Instead of, I am broken, the narrative became, I experienced something and I can address it. Based on the poise I saw from the 21-year-old Malinin after his unexpected and uncharacteristic performance, after all, he hadn't been beaten in more than 2 years, I expect that he'll do the same as Biles next time, but we'll have to wait 4 more years to see about that. Now, this is not about denial or fake positivity. It's important to distinguish what we're talking about here from simple positive thinking or cliches. If you're struggling with fatigue, saying, I'm not tired, isn't believable and can backfire. If you're learning a new skill, declaring, I'm perfect at it, when you're just starting out, that creates internal conflict and reduces motivation. Research on self-affirmation also shows that affirmations are most effective when they're believable and aligned with values or process, rather than unrealistic, grandiose claims. So instead of identity-based language like, I'm bad under pressure, try something more grounded, like, in high-pressure moments, I'm learning how to focus on the next step. That shift matters because it changes how your brain allocates attention. It reduces threat perception and increases cognitive control, a key element in performance success. That kind of language helps keep your prefrontal cortex active, the part of your brain responsible for reasoning and decision making. Under threat, this area can be compromised. Language that reduces perceived threat supports access to executive functions. As Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. This is more than positive wishful thinking, but how do you put this into practice? Here's an actionable, science-grounded exercise that you can begin today. Step 1, increase awareness. For the next week, start by paying attention to your internal language, especially in moments of stress, discomfort, challenge. Notice recurring phrases that you tell yourself, like, I'm not good at this. This is too hard, or I always mess up. Don't judge what you notice. Just observe. Step 2, reframe that inner dialogue. Take each negative pattern and reframe it into a statement that is truthful. It's grounded in growth or process and shifts focus from fixed identity to behavior or strategy. For example, instead of, I'm terrible at presentations, try, I've prepared and I'm improving with practice. Instead of, I'm always behind, try, I'm learning steps that help me manage time more intentionally. These aren't empty platitudes, they're directional statements that guide focus into behavior. Now, the third step, repeat with intent. Yes, repeat. Do it again. Before entering a high-pressure situation, a meeting, a test, an important conversation, choose one of your reframed statements. Say it quietly to yourself. Repeat it with intention. This repetition primes your brain for what to pay attention to and remember. The reticular activating system will start highlighting evidence consistent with that language. Our minds tend to see what they're looking for, and over time, those new neural pathways get stronger. And that neural wiring is what moves internal narrative from sporadic to default. When we talk about words shaping reality, we're not talking about magic or wishful thinking. We're talking about neurobiology, cognition, and behavior. What you repeatedly tell yourself becomes a training script for your brain. It affects what you notice in the environment, how you interpret stress, how you regulate emotions, how you perform under pressure, how you respond to setbacks. In the Olympics, we see this at its most dramatic, unexpected collapse under pressure and powerful comeback after mental reset. But it's there in our daily lives as well. Your internal narrative doesn't determine every outcome, but it influences how you show up. And how you show up influences the outcome. Words don't guarantee success, but they shape the pathways your brain uses to pursue it. Choose them with intention. Your brain is listening. Until next time, make the most of every moment and remember to live right now.
Thanks for being part of Live Right Now. If you like what you've heard, I encourage you to like and follow the podcast on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform and share it with someone who could use a little inspiration today. Join the conversation on our Facebook page or email me your thoughts at the address in the show notes. I'm Alan Haw. Until next time, make the most of every moment and remember to live right now.